I think I took all the callers. Once again, join my website, www.kingnobleblackrulership.com. If you haven't joined, go ahead and join. It's free. It's a profound daily live stream over there. It's actually hourly live stream of information going up. You can join it for free. Also join my new website where you can donate to help out the Black Supremacy Movement. That's www.kingnobleuncensored.com. Go ahead, join that website, donate, help fund this independent black media and broadcasting. That's www.kingnobleuncensored.com. And you can go there and actually make your donation now during the time of this show. Show your support. We're trying to keep this thing going. But join the website, www.kingnobleblackrulership.com. Getting ready to go in on my topic. Tonight's topic, Christianity, the human counter-enlightenment agenda. Let me do a mic check before I get started just to make sure y'all hear me clear. 216, you hear me clear before I go in on this?
Black supremacy, yes, sir.
That's power. Christianity, the human counter-enlightenment agenda. A counter-enlightenment agenda is an agenda where somebody does not want you to become enlightened. They do not want you to wake up and realize who you are. Because if you do, they can no longer exploit you. They can no longer utilize you. They can no longer take advantage of you. They can no longer capitalize off your existence. Because once you're enlightened, their system will be destroyed and their power will be broken up. So they have a human counter-enlightenment agenda that has been going on since the conception of the white man's religion, Christianity. At the first point that they gave you this white Jesus and this myth, this crux of fiction, at the time that they gave this to you, they had a human counter-enlightenment agenda. Because they knew if you were not enlightened, didn't know who you are, and did not have a real perception of the world, of the natural world and of existence, that they could rule over you, capitalize off you, and exploit you. So Christianity has been the human counter-enlightenment agenda, keeping you asleep for a reason. Now I want to explain how is it a counter-enlightenment agenda. People always talk about we need to unify, we need to come together. You tell them about weapons, you tell them about armed revolution and militancy, and they say, well, all we need to do is come together. We don't need no weapons, no guns, if we just unify. Some say, and they answer what needs to happen when we unify is they say, well, we need to boycott. We need to stop spending money with them. We need to build our own communities, grow our own food, become independent, become self-sufficient. That's what they try to use to answer to those who ask, what's going to happen after we unify? Because they keep saying, all you need to do is unify, 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 unify. If we just come together, it's over with for the white man. Tonight, I'm going to break down and explain to you what is the actual power specifically, what is the benefit of when we actually unify. Now, this unity is not going to come out of a whole bunch of black people that consider themselves conscious or that are unconscious, that are compassionate, nationalistic, Hebrews, RBG, Pan-Africanists. It's not going to be based off simply because they are that and they want to become unified because they are pro-black or whatever. That unity is not going to save us. That unity is superficial. I'm talking about a unity that happens naturally after your mind wakes the fuck up. After your consciousness expands, a certain type of unity will begin to happen naturally. It won't be after you debate. It won't be based on how well you argued your point. or how well we've come to a consensus reality based upon how we compromise and merge our points and our ideas and our religions together, or how much we put aside our ideas and become tolerant of one another. I'm not talking about that type of unity based upon just tolerance and compromise and, let's just come together for the hell of it. I'm talking about the type of unity that will occur when we truly enlightened, when we truly wake up at the essence of our consciousness, that these beings that wake up will naturally be driven to come together. They will begin to do things that will bring them together. It will be synergistic and it will be synchronistic. This will be a naturally occurring synchronicity. It won't be nothing contrived. There will be no Robert rules or laws, no plans, no board. There will be no forums or groups. We will naturally come together based on having enlightened and awakened minds as black people. Fathom this. Just stay with me. As much as we know the first day of summer, we know where we're going to meet up at. We know what time it is. We know what the change of weather means. And we know how we're going to come together for the summer. And if you're in Chicago and you're going through one of them cold-ass winters, which I know you're going through in Chicago, as soon as the winter hit, we're already enlightened. We know how we're going to come together and work together with what we have in order to survive those cold-ass winters to make it to the summer. As soon as the winter hit, we're already coming together based on that. You don't even got to talk about it. We don't need no plans. We know that we're going to survive that winter. It's a technology, a part of the culture of living in Chicago. The same way in Florida. Tornado season, hurricane season. It's an automatic social technology that when them clouds get too dark and that water rises a little bit, they know what time it is. And without saying anything, having to agree, debate, come to any ideas, make any false unity, they know how they're going to work together to survive that hurricane season. That's the way the enlightenment of black people is going to happen when they truly awaken. When they truly destroy the human counter-enlightenment agenda. That will be the real unity. What does this unity look like and what is this unity based on? Let me talk about that. Christianity has given you a false myth and given you a false deity to make you not want to unify. Not because of your religion, not because you're Pan-Africanist or you're RBG or because you're a Hebrew or because you're a Muslim. I'm talking about if you are a black American, an African American, or you're just somebody, a global person in Africa or anywhere that's under the programming of Christianity. I don't care whatever else you call yourself. This Christian human counter-enlightenment agenda is stopping you from unifying with your people, stopping you from being attracted to real unity. You might talk about it, you might desire it, you might even see the benefit of it. But deep in the background of your subconscious mind, this human counter-enlightenment agenda is going on and stopping you. And you've been programmed through Christianity. So even if you got out of the religion and you think you're a Muslim now, you think you're a Hebrew Israelite now, you think you're RBG now, you think you're Yoruba now, but you still have been trained and programmed and fashioned in a way by the society, by the religious institutions, by Christianity being the fundamental way of this, how the society operates, by Christianity being the ultimate consensus reality by being the predominant religion. You have been influenced in a way socially that is anti-unity, because those people know that if we really unify, that their systems will be destroyed. Their power structure will be destroyed. Their tyranny will be destroyed. They know that. So they have programmed you to reject unity. Psychologically, socially, neurologically. They have programmed you to reject unity. They have programmed real unity to not make sense to you, to not feel right to you, and to even come up across as dangerous. They have given you a defense mechanism Socialization. I'm going in now with this. You have a defense mechanism orientated socialization. Let me go in your good book to just bring it home for y'all. Let me go in the Bible to show you how this is. They give you a story about the nicest motherfucker in the world. The most caring and compassionate, selfless person that ever existed on the planet, according to them. Jesus Christ, or Yeshua HaMashiach, as the Hebrews might pronounce him. He's supposedly the most compassionate and best, nicest, selfless, caring person who ever existed. And what did he get for that shit? Crucified. What did Jesus Christ get for trying to unify? For caring about somebody other than himself? What did Jesus Christ get? He got hung on the cross and crucified. What did he get for being forgiven and being compassionate and thinking about some other than himself, trying to save the world? What did Jesus Christ get for that? Nails put in his goddamn arms. Hung up in the hot-ass sun with nails driven into his hands and feet. He had to carry a cross. He was tortured for being a caring, compassionate, spiritually enlightened being, according to their book. So why, in the subconsciousness of your mind, would you not make that association since you've been so overexposed to Christianity? So if you start to care about others, you believe subconsciously, if you start to open up and begin to care about others even sometimes more than you do yourself, and live for the savior of humanity, live for the salvation of humanity versus your own individual materialistic desires. Because a camel can make it through an eye of a needle before the rich man can get into heaven. So you're giving up your material desires. The meek can inherit the earth and all these types of scriptures. Why would you do all that if you went up on the cross? Subconsciously in your mind, why would you? See, they've given you a human counter-enlightenment agenda through this mythology, through this belief system. Why would you save your people? Why would you be an example of salvation for your people? They're just going to put you on the cross, subconsciously in your mind. And why would you do it if somebody's already been put on the cross for the salvation of all of humanity? Why would you go through that shit again? For some niggas in the hood? Why do it? So in our minds, we have a self-defense mechanism that makes us separate and makes us close with dealing with each other. Because we subconsciously fear the crucifixion. We fear being crucified. They're telling you in one statement to be like Christ. But no Christian wants to be like Christ. That's why they're so selfish. They live so separate. They're so materialistic. That's why there's so many denominations of Christianity and so many different churches that they cannot come together. This pastor against that pastor. I don't go to that church. I don't like them over there. Why is that so? If Christ was so selfless, how can Christians be so selfish? Because Christians realize that the price of selflessness, the price of caring, is being taken advantage of, ran over, abused, and hung up on the cross by others. Because that's, at the end of the day, what the crucifixion of Jesus Christ really represents, if you really look at it. That's bottom line. Well, they say, well, he went off into heaven, and he's fine in heaven, and he's given a new body and all this, and he's going to raise up again, but by you as a never seeing that happen. And by that haven't happened yet, and you can't even prove that there's a heaven. You can only have belief and faith that such a thing possibly exists, but you haven't really seen that. The furthest of what you can fathom is that nigga got hung up on that cross. Is that he got hung up on that cross, and the price that he had to pay for being a good person, for caring, was being tortured. So in your subconscious mind, you feel like that if you're really a caring and good person, that you're going to be tortured, that people are going to take advantage of you to no end, and that you have to defend yourself and be closed off, which makes you a separatist and an individualist. Because the price of caring about more than yourself and caring about the transformation of the world leads to crucifixion, which is why they said you don't want to be a black leader. You don't want to be a black Messiah. Because that means you're going to have to be crucified. And some of these will tell you that they're not even Christians. They say, well, look what happened to Dr. Martin Luther King. Look what happened to, Malcolm X. They were crucified, but you're supposed to not be a Christian. So why do you believe in the crucifixion of Malcolm X and the context of the crucifixion of Dr. King if you're not even a Christian? Because you have been programmed by the counter-human enlightenment agenda. They got you scared of being an enlightened being. They got you scared of wanting to be the salvation. It's not that you lack the intelligence, the ability, the willpower, or the organization. You don't lack any of that. You have all of that because you do it for the white man every single day. Your problem is that you fear your own crucifixion based upon actually really being a good person. Really being a caring person for black people. Really being a forgiving person for your own race. You can't be all that because in your subconscious mind you fear crucifixions, which makes you selfish and independent and defensive. I mean, you'll do a little good, but you don't want to do too much so you can be crucified. You'll help out a few people. You'll give out turkeys on Thanksgiving. You'll give out turkeys on Christmas. You'll give out presents. You'll help the homeless out here and there. You give out a sandwich. You'll donate to charities. You'll help out here and there, but you're not going to do too much because you'll get crucified. Deep in the back of your mind, you fear crucifixion. And when you feel that you're giving in an overly abundant way that people can take, and you can keep giving, and you're giving in a supreme abundant way, you begin to feel uncomfortable. You don't realize your abundance as an infinite enlightened being. You begin to realize yourself that, hold up, I might be getting ready to be crucified because I'm giving out way more. I'm giving out more than usual, more than I believe I have a capacity to give because I'm going beyond and transcending in my givingness. I better stop. That I'm not an abundant being with infiniteness to give. I'm one who must be in a self-defensive state to prevent being crucified. Like Jesus Christ. Listen to me. The human counter-enlightenment agenda keeps us separated, keeps us scared to connect, to unify, scared to give, to go beyond the limits, the parameters, and the boundaries that would empower the people, that would empower our communities, scared to go beyond those. And we give on safe levels. We participate on safe levels. We keep safe distances from one another. Because if we help too much and become too good of people, we're going to be crucified. Who made that up? Who created this? There's a universal law in the universe that says you cannot put any energy out in the universe and not get it back. Let's call it the law of compensation. Whatever energy you put out, you're going to get back. If you put out a tremendous, infinite amount of love, you're going to get that back. You can't put out the purest, most transcendental love. You can't put out the highest compassion and get a cross with some nails to be put up on. But the Bible tells you so. It's not consistent with the law of deliberate creation. It's not consistent with the power of the mind. It even contradicts itself. It says you reap what you sow. How the hell did Jesus Christ sow being hung up on the cross with nails in it if he was multiplying the loaves and feeding the hungry and making helping the lame and making the blind see and raising the dead? How did he reap in execution? Because not only is it mythological, it's also myth-illogical. Because any metaphysician or conscious creator knows that whatever you put out in the universe, you're going to get. So you should be wanting to put out more. You should be wanting to give more. You should want to go beyond more illusions, go beyond more selfishness, go into more selflessness. You want to tap the universal and infinite abundance. You want to put out more love and compassion and caring in the universe, specifically as it relates to your people, those among you. You want to do that. You want to open up the floodgates by your own giving, being delivered in your own givingness, in your own care and compassion for your own. You want to do that. But what's going to stop you from doing that is if you believe you're going to be crucified because of the dehuman counter-enlightenment agenda. The book teaches you that the most spiritual being that they can think of or imagine or be aware of was the most giving being, right? Because, well, he gave his life so that you may have everlasting life, according to their book, right? So if he gave his life, so the most highest, the most perfect being was a giving being. They don't realize that in reality, it's the opposite. The most perfect being in the world is actually the most forgiving being. Follow me with that. The most perfect person and being in the world is not the one that is the most giving. It's the one that is most forgiven. The most forgiven being is the one who realizes perfection beyond one's material reality. The one that is most giving, their perfection is relative to their material in the world. It's a material reality. But they tell you that. So by being that, we become more judgmental to create illusions of how good we are. Illusions of how great we are as an individual. Because we feel the highest pinnacle that we can reach is those that who are purely and specifically in a position of giving. Not realizing that the universe is ultimately the giver and that you are ultimately the receiver. That's a fact. So your perfection is a given already to you. So it's not about what you give, it's about what you've been given. Given beyond anything that you could possibly give or not give. I'm going in with this. But the human counter-enlightenment agenda has you believing that, wait a minute, I have to get to this particular level based on being able to give something. And by thinking that, you judge other people based upon where they're at, which makes you lack in compassion. And if you lack in compassion, you lack in giving compassion, and so thus you lack in receiving it. I hope y'all follow me with this. They know this information that I'm telling you right now. The ones I'm talking about. That's why they came up with the human counter-enlightenment agenda. We're saying that, how are we going to organize to come up with where we're going to live? We need to organize and grow our own food. We need to organize and create systems to make things better for us. We need to create our own schools and create our own this. Once you become enlightened, we become an enlightened community, you won't have to pay rent no more. You won't have to worry about food or what you're going to eat. Without even organizing or planning, you will not have to worry about these things because the planet is rich and abundant. The shit is already here. So what's stopping us from accessing it in the most abundant way? The human counter-enlightenment agenda of Christianity. Once you become enlightened, people become enlightened, they won't be so attached to all these material things that they're trying to defend and make sure they're not giving too much to others because they don't want to be crucified. They throwing away food in their house because giving means being crucified. If I'm too nice, I'm going to be crucified, so I'd rather let this food go bad. Well, let me sell it because I give it to them, they won't appreciate it, they'll crucify me. Do you see how all these ideas working? So while we all separate and individual and not giving to ourselves in a way that creates infinite abundance, where we don't have to worry about food, clothing, and shelter, and organizing complex and elaborate systems to take care of basic human needs. The ruling class, the imperialists, they are taking advantage of our separation, thus selling us the shit back to ourselves and organizing us while they make us afraid of one another, afraid to totally give and live in abundance with each other. They make us afraid of each other, afraid of being crucified by one another. And they just capitalize and exploit our separation, our individuation, our individualization. They just capitalize off of it. Since we can't come together, they can make money off of our lack of togetherness. And they make more money in our neighborhood off us being separate than we even benefit from our togetherness at all. But our religion and ideology tells us that it makes sense to be separate. Because once you start going out there trying to save and help people and look out for people and take care of people, you're going to be crucified. So you should be selfish. Not realizing that your living is your giving, so what you actually give to others, what you give to, you live through. Right now, we're not living off our giving. We're living off of submitting to their taking and their redistribution of what we allow them to take from us in our state of unenlightenment. Just like they took Africa from us. We lived in the richest, most abundant land in the world, the richest continent in the world. And now, due to the human counter-enlightenment agenda, some of the most poorest people in the world live in one of the wealthiest continents on the earth. It doesn't make any sense. How could you live on the richest land and be the poorest? Because of the human counter-enlightenment agenda. They separated us through these religious ideologies, through this Christianity. And they gave us a white man. I'm about to bring it home to you now. You thinking that the greatest man in the world, like God, in the image and likeness of God and all that, is the most giving person, that he gave his life and laid down his life for you, but he's really the most forgiving person, which is why he's white. And the white man is continue to do everything he's allowed to do because he's forgiven by the world. So they made Jesus white, in the image of the white man. They made him white so that you would actually forgive the white man. But the story tells you that Jesus was the most giving, but as the program plays out, the white man is the most forgiving. As in being in the likeness and image of Christ. So the white man does everything that he does because he is forgiving. And you are not able to even pay your goddamn bills and get the shit that you need without being oppressed because you're forgetting. The white man is rich because he's forgiving, and you're poor because you're forgetting. Interesting. The human counter-enlightenment agenda runs deep. That's why people say you got to wake your mind and your consciousness up. You have no idea even what they mean. You just think that's some metaphysical shit and you niggas don't want to pick up the gun and go out and fight and do this. You do not even understand how we have ended up in this social conundrum that we are. How we have ended up in this unorthodox and denatured human social condition that we live in. You have no idea how deep it is. It's beyond you being able to pick up a gun or a bomb. You have to completely shift your paradigm out of the matrix. You have to have a complete constructive change within yourself and as a person and as an individual. And you have to be the change you want to see in the world. You have to be that revolution. But how? You got to break the chains of the human counter-enlightenment agenda that's Christianity. That program playing in the background that's stopping us from achieving the type of unity, the type of utopia that we want. We claim we have all these types of spiritual, denominations and ideologies and religions, but at the very end of the day, we're acting out the pathologies of the Christian programming. Why do people have their own house and people living in mansions and there's homeless people right out in their neighborhood? Why don't they let some of the homeless people in? Why is there any homelessness and it's all the vacant properties and buildings that exist? Because none of these people want to help people to get crucified. Hell, if you let somebody in your house and actually help them, you're going to be crucified. That's what happens to good people. Person who's ever existed. Jesus Christ. Look what happened to him. And I imagine if you outdo that, worse probably can happen. Why would anybody want to be good? Why would anybody want to be like Christ? That's why you won't find a Christian that is like Christ. Because they smarten up after 6,000 years. They read the story and found out, nope, I don't think we want to do that. They gave you that story for a reason. So that you can look at the black person and say, you know what? You go in your church, the pastor say, look at your neighbor. You ain't going to crucify me. Look to the person next to you. You won't crucify me. So we have this paranoia and this fear of crucifixion. I call it post-traumatic Christ execution syndrome, where we are carrying on the trauma of what Christ experienced, the after trauma of Christ's execution. We're carrying that with us. Then we got this phobia in our mind where we're always looking for Judas. Judas has got to be there, ready to mess up something that you're doing, not realizing that it's you just. It's not Judas, it's you just. That your mind is creating that because you have been programmed. You have been programmed to interpret your experiences based upon that human counter-enlightenment agenda narrative. So you must keep reinterpreting in your life in a way to fit that story. And if you're subconsciously doing this, how are we going to build a nation? How are we going to save our race and save our community if subconsciously this human counter-enlightenment agenda is running, program is running? And I'm not talking about just those that are Christians. All of us have been affected by that, even if we have changed over our religion, the way we live every day. It's our fear of crucifixion. Even though say, you're going to be resurrected and all that, nobody believes that. Really? Or all they do is believe it, meaning they know it's not true. Ain't nobody trying to get resurrected. They trying to live as good as they think they can live on earth, but as good as they can do without tapping into the true spiritual and infinite abundance of being an enlightened being. The best they can do is submit to the tyranny of white supremacy by being a separatist. That's the best that they can achieve in this world. By not being able to come together and achieve true unity, natural unity with the masses of their people based on enlightenment. The best they can do is be a separatist, is be individual, is to be materialistic, is to be individualist. That's the best that they can actually achieve. With the fear of their own crucifixion lurking them. and lurk in their reality. 15 minutes in the live stream. I encourage people that's listening to this show to join the website, www.kingnobleBlackRulership.com. Donate to Black Independent Media and Broadcasting, Black Supremacy Independent Media and Broadcasting at www.kingnobleuncensored.com. Join the website. It's free, www.kingnobleBlackRulership.com. Get in that stream, participate in that stream. Tonight we're dealing with the human counter-enlightenment agenda. It was spoon-fed to us and given to us to turn us against one another, to make us fear each other. We're all preppers. We're all in our independent houses and independent spaces, stocking up food, scared of being crucified by our neighbors. You're talking about, look at those preppers. Look at whether you're a prepper. Even if you only store up from first of the month to first of the month, you're still a prepper. You still scared. You still think that you can put something out in the universe and get something different. That you can plant watermelon seeds and get crocodiles. You still think that you can be the most spiritual, enlightened, abundant, open, loving being in the universe and get hung up in the cross and put some rusty nails in your damn arms. You still believe? You really do believe that? Because if you knew how abundant you was, if the masses of us, if even a small minority of us knew how abundant that we were, and realized the true abundance of the universe and its perfection and how it is manifested and how it exists, white supremacy would end over fucking night. Disease, poverty, and starvation, all that would end overnight. If we realize that. And they know that. But as long as we keep having fear of being the most supreme, loving, enlightened, and compassionate, selfless, spiritual beings, as long as we fear doing that, those beings that you have called the Illuminati, those beings that you have called the reptilians, will continue to exploit our separation and our ignorances and capitalize off our energy and our vibrations and our frequencies for their own gain, and will remain under their tyranny and their oppression because we fear being our own salvation. We fear having and obtaining and acting in Christ consciousness. We fear that. So we objectify Christ outside of ourselves, so that we can place the illusion of our crucifixion outside of us. And we never ever have to live up to our true spiritual potential, which is really the embodiment of the world that we want to live in. It's at the end, it's at the tips of our own spiritual potential. The salvation is in the transformation of our very own human condition. But we fear that. That's why when somebody like myself come along and say I am the Messiah, God on the earth, you're worried about that because all you can think is we're gonna be crucified now, you know. But when I say that I am the Messiah, I'm not likening myself to one who has been crucified. That's bullshit. That's myth. The true Messiah is the message that they bring. They embody in their beingness the salvation of the world. The true Messiah is the richest man alive, most abundant, infinite, and powerful enlightened being on the planet. You cannot put out divine energy. You cannot put out infinite goodness in infinite amounts of kindness and love and compassion towards your own people and not get that in return. That is nuclear energy. That relationship among ourselves is an atomic bomb. It is the end of white supremacy. It is Armageddon. It is the true book of Revelations when self is revealed through our own beingness. Us going beyond and transcending our own limits to manifest more divinity into this planet. Last 10 minutes of the live stream show. Let me open up the calls for the last 10 minutes just to get some calls in before we go into